I grew up in a really underprivileged community. Well, at first I didn't. I was born in
Mhm.
Nigeria and was born into a really wealthy family. And then my mum moved with me and my two siblings, and she was pregnant with my sister when I was 6 years old. And
Mm.
we grew up in a underprivileged community. So everyone was kind of growing up and getting into crime or having children early, and there were like drug addicts on the staircase and
Mm.
just a whole bunch of things. And my mom, luckily for us, introduced us to meditation at a really young age. And
Wow.
she would say, like, your reality isn't real. It's like this is all an illusion, and you can create what you want, and everything you desire exists
Mhm.
within yourself. And all you got to do is turn within and access the abundance that
Mm.
exists within. So I always had this kind of foundation of like there's so much more, and as long as there's that spaciousness, I can play beyond.
Hello and welcome to Hello Moxie. Today I am joined by the amazing Adaku Mbagwu. Adaku, how are you? Good morning. How's it going? Where are you
Good
tuning in from
morning.
today?
I am tuning in from Tulum. So happy to be on with
Oh,
you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm
love
here
it.
in Mexico.
That's so cool. I have a colleague who lives in that same area, so you might have crossed paths. She's an expat from the
Oh,
States.
there's
So,
a lot of us.
yeah,
It's kind of doesn't feel like Mexico. It kind of feels like America almost, because there's
yeah.
more Americans than any other expat. But it's yeah, it's a nice spiritual community.
That's what I was going to ask. What is it about Tulum that you think draws people there?
So you'll hear like woo-woo buzzwords, like it's a vortex, and like
Oh,
the it's on water. There's a lot of cenotes under, so there's a very distinct energy about it. The only other place I've experienced this in is in Bali, but I don't. So when you ask people, "Oh, how did you end up here?" So, "Oh, I came on vacation and I never left," or "I came on vacation, couldn't stop thinking about it, and came." So it's kind of like
wow.
when it pulled you in, it like grabs you and doesn't want to let you go, and it's beautiful.
Mm.
I have the same story. I kind of came during the pandemic, and I was like, "What
Mm.
is this place? Who are these people?" I'm saying. So
Amazing. I've actually never been there, but I will someday. What
you
are some of
should.
the things that you love most about it there?
I think mainly the community. Everyone
Mm.
here is working on themselves and trying to get
Mm.
better. So you tend to find that there's this kind of open heartedness of
Mm.
everyone. So I always say if the rest of the world was like Tulum, we'd have no problems. Everyone kind of shares everything, embraces everyone, tries to come
Mm.
with love on the most part, like discovering the things they need to heal about themselves. That's kind of like standard conversation, talking about traumas and what you're
Mm.
working on and transformations that you've experienced. And so it's just a very, but there's a lot of fun too. So there's good sides, and you can come here and come for just partying, and then I'm kind of plugged into the spiritual community, which is very much yoga. I think there's a saying here that if you throw a rock, you'll either hit a healer, a coach, or a DJ. So that gives you an indication of what the
Maybe
makeup
all three in one, right? A healer, a coach, and a DJ.
of a DJ. Yeah, that's not it's not unreasonable to have
Mm.
three in one person. But it's just a beautiful community. The weather is great. It's hot all year round, even when it's raining and there's hurricanes. Which coming from London, I do not complain about.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always things to do. Yeah, it's just got small time vibes, but very boho chic, and yeah,
Ooh, you're selling me hardcore. I'm gonna have to make it down there.
it's a
I'm
wonderful
all
place.
into spiritual healing and
Oh,
facing our traumas and actually integrating the pain that we've suffered with. So I think that's beautiful. Beautiful,
you won't
beautiful.
be. You might be one of those that are pulled in. And be careful.
Well, I'm so curious about your necklace. I The minute you popped in, I was like, this necklace is gorgeous. So I know, is there a story behind your beautiful necklace or is it just no?
Not really. I
No?
like things like butterfly. The last necklace I was wearing a lot was a dragonfly. Just
Mm.
anything that like has wings and represents freedom. I think that's kind of
Mm.
it I'm drawn to. So I saw it and I was like, oh, I like that. So
Tell me
no
more
story.
about this. Why are you drawn to it? What is it about you that is drawn to this, I guess, idea or feeling of freedom and flight?
Huh. So I grew up in a really underprivileged community. Well, at first I didn't. I was born in
Mhm.
Nigeria and was born into a really wealthy family. And then my mum moved with me and my two siblings, and she was pregnant with my sister when I was 6 years old.
Mm.
And we grew up in a underprivileged community. So everyone was kind of growing up and getting into crime or having children early, and there were like drug addicts on the staircase and
Mhm.
just a whole bunch of things. And my mom, luckily for us, introduced us to meditation at a really young age.
Wow.
And she would say, like, your reality isn't real. It's like this is all an illusion, and you can create what you want, and everything you desire exists
Mhm.
within yourself. And all you got to do is turn within and access the
Mm.
abundance that exists within. So I always had this kind of foundation of like, there's so much more. And as long as there's that spaciousness, I can play beyond. So whenever I've never like been part of cliques or joined like groups or I remember having a conversation with one of my friends, and she was like, "Oh, I'll never have a mortgage." And I was like, "Why would you even say that?" You know, it's like in my mind, it wasn't even anything is possible. So the
Mhm.
thought of being free, and I guess that's kind of how I ended up in Tulum. On like the
Mhm.
COVID was happening, everyone was locked down. I was living by myself in London. I was like, this doesn't feel humane. As humans, we're supposed to interact. And then I came to Tulum, and there was no COVID. Everyone was kind of doing their thing. I was like, ah, I can breathe. So just the ability to be limitless. I was sharing with you that I've been unwell, and just not being
Mhm.
able to move is like, I wanna unleash, and the part of me that is alive inside my body wasn't cooperating with, and that just made me feel trapped. And I just
Mm.
like the possibilities that exist with the concept of freedom.
I love that. That's so beautiful. I mean, as a child, to go from one extreme to the other that way must have been incredibly jarring for you. I mean, I can only imagine the shift there, like from being in a really wealthy community to the upheaval of being displaced in that way. But what a beautiful thing that your mom taught you this at such a young age, about the power of the mind to shift your thinking. Um, that is really, really special. I'd love for you to tell our listeners a little bit about what you do and what are you doing in Tulum? What are you up to besides, going dancing and doing yoga and all that
And
fun stuff?
I
Tell
am
our
running
listeners.
around the fire
Yeah.
outside of I've launched a community this year for
Mm.
firstborn daughters who are executives and entrepreneurs. Um,
Mhm.
so I've been coaching. I'm one of those, you throw a rock, you hit me. I'm a coach. So
Mhm.
a lot of my work is online, and I over the last 5 years I've been refining my methodology to help people see how their traumas are like pervasive in every single area of their life, and giving them the tools to learn how to coach themselves. So how do they learn to kind of become aware of their triggers and use that as a pointer to see, okay, my unconscious mind is anticipating danger in this moment. How can I tap into my conscious mind to like see what I'm projecting and interrupt that pattern and align with an expanded way of being? And that usually results in exponential growth in career and business, but also improve relationships and with kids and husbands and friendships. And it just has when we change as individual, it has a ripple effect. And over the years, I didn't realize I was working with firstborn daughters. And two of my clients asked for coaching for their dynamic with their firstborn. And I was like, hold on, what's happening here?
Hmm.
And as I step back from it, I'm a firstborn. They're all firstborns. They have tension with their firstborn. I'm like, what? Why does this happen generation after generation? And that's when I decided, okay, maybe I've been on the journey that I've been on to uniquely do something to address that and help those women heal so that they can win. But it's because of who firstborn daughters are. As they heal, it has a ripple effect in terms of the community that they are around. I apologize. I've turned off my notifications, so I don't know what's going on.
That's
Um,
okay. Don't worry about it. I love it.
yeah, so I've created this community to bring them together to do the work on working on themselves while growing their businesses and their
Beautiful.
careers. Yeah.
Well, I am a firstborn daughter and an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. So I
Yeah.
can completely connect with and relate to what you're building. I think it's fascinating that just naturally it seemed like that's kind of the people that you were attracting. But also I do think like something about being a firstborn, we are just like we're just naturally more driven and ambitious. Um I would say maybe because of our traumas potentially that we've struggled with in our childhood and everything. You shared something that I found very interesting when you were talking about the work that you do with firstborn daughters is being able to recognize the unconscious patterns that are happening and then in conscious awareness help them shift. Can you give us an example of like that in practice where you've seen one of your clients who maybe had was unconsciously showing up in a certain way because of their trauma and was triggered in a certain way? And what was the shift that happened for them that helped them kind of move in a completely new way of being?
Okay, which one to choose? Um, Okay. I usually, so I've got into business with one of my clients, Shirley. When she came to me, she
Mhm.
thought that, so the thing with firstborn daughters is that on the surface, we're pretty effective. So, and then it's usually we're the carers of everyone. So that kind of,
Mhm.
I love firstborn daughters, but it gives us a false sense of completeness in terms of like, I'm effective. Look at what I do for everyone else. I have no
Yep.
issue. So Shirley came to me and she was like, I haven't got any problems. I just need to grow my business. I'm working really hard and I can't figure out why it's only growing a little bit or why it's plateauing. So she had this recovery business that was doing 160K in revenue for the last 8 years or so. And she was like, I'm trying everything and it's not moving. So when we started working, I have a process called the purpose process to figure out the root decision that she's made that's dictating everything. And her root
Mhm.
belief is I'm not accepted. So a lot of firstborn daughters, the pattern in their decisions is some version of I'm invisible, I'm not
Mhm.
considered, I'm not appreciated, I'm not acknowledged. It's kind of
Mhm.
do so much and not everyone takes for granted all the things that we do, and that affects how they show up because they kind of anticipate that moving
Mhm.
forward. So Shirley's root belief is I'm not accepted. And when we started looking, she had a whole bunch of things. She had some childhood sexual trauma. She was an immigrant daughter of Taiwan. We're talking about it. So she's Asian. Where is she from? I forget. I'm
Okay.
so sorry, Shirley, if
No
she
worries.
hears.
She was an immigrant. She was an
She's an
immigrant.
immigrant
Yeah.
child, so her
Mhm.
parents didn't speak good English. She was the eldest of the two. She had a little brother, and she was responsible for translating everything. So
Wow.
she basically played the adult role, as most of us do. We end up being parentified. And then she went to a school, and she got into a private school where her dad was the janitor. So she already felt out of place
Mhm.
because she was an immigrant, so she didn't feel like she fit in, and everyone was rich and she was poor, so she didn't feel like she fit in. So there was this kind of constant feeling of being on the outs. So how that shows up is that she has a really unique approach to recovery, and not surprisingly, we typically deliver at a high standard and really impactful. But where she was getting in her way is that she had some insecurities that weren't really at the forefront for her, of feeling like because she didn't come from a recovery background, people wouldn't respect her. So she was almost trying to win respect rather than be
Mhm.
authority of like the gift that she brings into the market, and that was having her not go be bold in terms of the opportunity she was going for, and she was kind of letting other people drive decisions in certain ways and not really kind of leading, and she was hiring people. So because we all most first model daughters have this, because we're in a position where we are taking care of people, we kind of associate what we do with love. So it's like the more we do for people, the more we're loved. So then what tends to
Yes.
happen,
Yes.
what tends to happen
Mhm.
is that she started recruiting people that needed her. So she was carrying on that same pattern in business. So then she just came to this conclusion that people are not effective, and she has to do everything, but she was creating that unconsciously. So
Yeah.
it just we unlocked all of the ways that it was showing up in these micro ways, and then we started having her align to, if I was accepted, how would I show up, and if I was recruiting from a place of
Hmm.
not needed to be needed, how would I show up? And that had a ripple effect. So within 8 months of working together, she grew her business to 800,000 in revenue. It's
Wow.
already over 1 million. So it's like for 8 years there was no movement, but beyond that, there was so many things like her childhood sexual trauma. Her partner didn't. Her husband, who she had been with since high school, didn't even know about it. So again, it's kind of
Wow.
in this persona of having things together and not being weak has you not really be your full authentic self. You're kind of always playing into a role of who you need to be. That's really draining. And also, it doesn't allow people to connect with you deeply, which means that it blocks you in business, it blocks you in your relationships, it blocks you in multiple different places. So I can go on and on and on. So that's just an example of how those.
Mm. So beautiful. Like it starts from like it's a beautiful way to look at like how to scale a business rather than okay, it's rather than looking at something as like top down, it's like from the in out. It's like how can you change the belief systems that you have, and once you can change how you think about your limiting beliefs or whatever these subconscious thoughts are that are impacting you, once you shift that mindset, then everything just kind of moves in this beautiful direction rather than okay, to get to 1 million, I need to do these hacks or I need to, hire this expert or whatever, whatever the case may be. It's really just like what looking within yourself first and seeing what you can shift there. I love
Yeah.
that. That's beautiful.
Mhm.
Well, I would love to learn a little bit more about like some of the aligned actions that you teach your clients to protect their mental health and their relationships while scaling. Like for Shirley's example, like scaling a business is it's hard. I scaled my marketing agency 4 times in 4 years, and it was rough, and I hated it, and I don't do it anymore. So, but so I would love to know. A lot of times people think of scaling as like that's the ultimate goal as a business owner is to scale my business and to grow, right? But I'm just curious what you think about that. Like, how do you recommend or help your clients, especially these firstborns who just are so driven and that's all we can think about to protect our mental health and relationships.
So I think a lot of people don't think about what they want. So
Mm.
when I work with firstborns, it's like I just need to achieve more and achieve more, and it's like, okay, but what's important to you? How do you want to
Yeah.
achieve more? Like you said, okay, I scaled it 4 times and it was hard, and then I didn't. So I'm without coaching you, I'm going to reflect something that I hear
Yeah.
often.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't the scaling of the business that was hard and was taxing. It was how you showed up that caused you stress that was impactful, right?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
with regards to Shirley, it was like scaling and hiring people meant more work for her because of how she was recruited. Whereas
Mhm.
now she has a team who she can rely on that bring ideas to the table that like alleviate her from working in the business to working on the business. So she's actually growing and doing less. So it's like, so once you understand how what you want, so it's like, okay, so for me, I had my recruitment business, I did all nighters, I grew it to 2.4 million in turnover, and at the peak of its growth I was so burnt out. I was like, I don't want this, I'm exiting ship left. But I had to see like, okay, well, what didn't I like about it? I don't like being in an office and feeling, again, the freedom. It felt like prison that I had to go to work and go to the office
Mm.
every single day. So I want
Yeah.
something that's remote. I don't want to be able to work all the time. I want to have the flexibility to say, I just want to rest and I don't want to do anything. Okay, well, then how can I structure that? So once I figured out all of the elements that I needed, I was like, okay, I'm living in Mexico. I'm moving to Dubai next year. It doesn't impact my work. I can work from anywhere. So now I'm building a business around what I want. And that then serves my mental health because I've gotten clear on what would make me feel better, you know? So
Mm.
usually when I work with my clients, I hear what they're complaining about, and I know that the opposite is what they want, and then I start helping them to ground in that, because I think sometimes it's like there's a assumption that I have no choice, like this is
Yep.
just how
You're
things are.
trapped. Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
not the truth. There's like
Right.
this big space to create whatever you want in. So I guess my job is to kind of help them see all of the space that they're not operating in, and they're operating in this little box which is causing them stress. I'm like, it's your life, and especially if you're an entrepreneur, you have the
Mhm.
flexibility to do exactly what you want. You like, no one's making you do it. You can
Yep.
decide to stop working, and it's up to you. So once you realize how much choice you have, then we can start crafting your business and shaping it in the way that kind of suits you, so that you're actually happy to scale and grow and step into that. So
That's beautiful. I love all of it. Man, where were you 5 years ago? When let's talk a little bit about vulnerability. I think we hear this a lot lately about being vulnerable and how strong leaders are vulnerable. What do you think, like, how do you define vulnerability in leadership, especially, like, how do you help women like me and you, high achieving women, from, like, finding this balance of, like, being open and transparent, but not too much so, so that you're still respected by the people that you're working with, and you can lead with vulnerability, but not let other people take advantage of that, let's say.
this is an interesting one. I do a masterclass every Thursday on strategic vulnerability for first one leaders,
Oh.
and there's 5 levels of vulnerability. I don't know whether there's such thing as too much vulnerability. I think
Mm,
where it becomes too much vulnerability is when you're using vulnerability to either excuse yourself, so you're coming from a victim mentality of like,
mm, mhm.
at me, and like, this is happening to me and it's not fair, rather than being vulnerable from an empowered place of like, i I'm sharing this and I know this is what I'm creating and I need some support. Like, that's
Yes.
super inspiring to anyone, you know? So I haven't found that there's such thing as too much vulnerability and people taking advantage. Again, I think no one can treat you, people only treat you how you allow them to treat you. So
Mm,
again, I'm my whole thing in terms of changing your life is being 100% accountable for everything that's unfolding. If there are
mm,
people in your life that are showing up a certain way, you are engaged in that dynamic. So it's more powerful
mhm.
to look at what's the part that I'm playing and what's occurring, and therefore
Yeah.
what do I need to change, rather than complaining about people doing things and expecting to share with them and they change. That's so hard. So like, let's just
Totally.
not even focus on doing that. Let's focus on showing up in a way, because when we look at it, there's always, you can tell that there are some people that get taken advantage of all the time, and some people that people won't dare to take advantage of. So why is
Mhm.
the same person able to operate differently with different people? And it's because of how those two people are showing up. So there's more
Yeah.
power looking at those individuals. So in terms of vulnerability, how do I help? There's 5 levels of vulnerability. First level of vulnerability. So where we mostly start is armor mode. The I've got it figured out. I don't need any help. I've got it all together. That's kind of the baseline for most firstborn daughters. So before that anything can change, they need to get to a point of internal awareness, which is really uncomfortable because a lot of firstborn daughters, once I kind of get them to start looking at their accountability and putting up the mirror, they automatically default to, so I'm a bad person. You're not a bad person. You've just created behaviors and patterns that are subconscious to you as a result of your trauma. So if you're able to look at yourself as this little girl that has learned to survive with these patterns that are showing up and not serving you, then there's no judgment to place on it. But because we're trying to be perfect and the good child and the
Mm,
good girl that has it all together, any form of kink in the armor makes us feel uncomfortable. So that's the first level of vulnerability. You need to be able to be vulnerable with yourself, to have grace with yourself and not
mm,
blame yourself about the ways that you've been showing up that are manifesting these patterns that don't serve you.
mm.
Once you do that, the next thing is start sharing with others. So Shirley's starting to share some of these things that she hadn't shared before. The power that comes when you start sharing your vulnerabilities with others is that you start accepting yourself, because you're not playing a role anymore. You're not hiding. So it gives you this sense of self, especially if you think people won't respect me, people think I'm weak, people won't love me. And then you start seeing evidence of the contrary. Your mind is like, oh, I can just be myself. Like, that's, and that moves you to the next level of vulnerability. So after you start sharing with yourselves, the next level of vulnerability is start to starting to let others pour into you, which is so difficult. The
Mm.
first ones. They desperately want it. I feel like every hidden secret or desire of a firstborn daughter is that they want to be taken care of. But it's firstly hard to ask because, again, I don't want to seem weak and I'm scared that I'll be rejected. But then once you start asking, receiving it becomes difficult because you've built your whole identity and have all of these decades of surviving through doing things on your own, that there is a threat that if I let someone do this to me, I might lose control, everything might fall
It's gonna fall
apart.
apart. Yep. Yep.
So it's like, well, that's vulnerable. So it's like that's another form of vulnerability in terms of receiving. And all of these steps, and once you get there, you start to build ecosystems of support. People start pouring into you. You have energy and capacity to take on more. Everything, that's where the magic starts to happen. But it takes a lot of courage. So where we have previously seen vulnerability as weak, it's the strongest thing that you can
Yeah.
do because it requires you to really overcome all of these fears and be courageous to take these actions to
Mm.
then create new evidence for yourself because your brain only operates by data that it knows, and moving into the unknown is the most scariest thing. So that's how I see vulnerability. It's like there's phases of vulnerability and each one requires a little bit more courage than the other, and it comes with a whole bunch of fears that you have to overcome.
So what is like the ultimate level stage of vulnerability? How are you showing up when you're operating at like the apex?
I call it so it's interesting. I call it authentic what's the word I'm looking for? Like being authentically magnetic.
Hmm.
Operating from that stage is vulnerable in itself because there's fear of judgment. Are people going to think
Mhm.
that I think I'm better than them? Am I being too much? Am I overwhelmed?
Mhm.
Am I intense? I was called intimidating all my life, and I'm like, I'm just breathing. Why am I intimidating? So it's like then if
Mhm.
I do step into I'm the shit, I love myself, what are people going to think? So that's an ultimate level. But when you walk through life like that, life reflects that back to you. People feel confident in your ability to deliver. People want
Yeah.
to be around you. People want to
And they
work
feel more confident. Yep.
it's the
Yep.
ultimate. It's like stepping into your god self, right? There's no
Mhm.
limitations, there's no second guessing, there's no imposter syndrome. It's like claiming my space. I'm supposed to be here. But again, you have to keep working through because your light will reflect a lot of the times when people as firstborn daughters we're really judgmental towards others because of how judgmental we are with ourselves. But as we start to
Mhm.
heal that, we start becoming less judgmental. But that usually a lot of times people's reactions to you is because the thing that you have that they desire they don't believe they can get, so they regain power by pulling it down. So stepping into that authentic magnetism is going to trigger a lot of people, and
Yep.
it's whether you're going to have the resilience to be able to keep standing in that and know that that's not your stuff. So every level, no matter where we are, even if we think we're down and out and we're not good enough and we're coming from this place of feeling that we're not loved for who we are but what we do, that has by like consequences. And then when you're in magnetic authenticity, that has consequences. So whatever
Yep.
it
Which
is, you're going
consequence
to
do you
have
want?
consequences. Exactly. I'd rather have the success and peace and confidence and the
Yes.
consequences from that, right? So, but it
Right.
takes a lot of work to get there.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I mean, I love what you shared about you choose your consequences. And it's true when you reach that level that it is going to upset some people's systems. They're not going to know how to handle it. And you have to accept that people are not going to support you when you make it to that level. Not everyone is going to be on your team because they can't handle success. Yeah, that's fascinating. Well, I would love to know if you could think about one woman in history that you would love to have to dinner. Someone who really inspires you or that you really admired. It doesn't have to be someone deceased. It could be someone still living. It could be someone personal to you. Who would that be for you?
Ah, why am I struggling with this question? Who would I have to dinner? So I think because of the work that I do, I know
Mhm.
that everything is not always as it seems.
Mm.
So someone may appear. So I admire. Um, let's say some. I admire so many women.
Yeah.
If I had to choose one that to talk about and analyze, probably Beyonce.
Ooh,
I
cool. I love her.
Yeah, like
Oh,
she's a firstborn daughter, and
uh-huh.
again, in terms of her craft, the level of care and effort and quality of standard that
Mm.
she shows up in on a consistent basis, and she doesn't respond to any kind of bad headlines about her. So she has this level of not kind of being dragged down to. Um, I don't know, defending herself. But I'd be curious at what playing that role is, like being that daughter that was like her parents quit their jobs to go full time
Mm.
on kind of her. So we don't know what that pressure felt like of I
Yeah.
need to be successful because my parents have put everything into me. And like we don't see behind the scenes. So I'd be curious as to um what she deals with on a day to day basis. I think sometimes, just generally, we idolize people and we think, oh, because they've got money and because they're successful, they must have it together. But this human experience, it's quite something. So it's knocking all of us sideways at different stages. And but I admire what I see in the way that she shows up externally, and I'd be curious to have dinner with her to be like, what's your story really?
Ooh, what questions would you ask her?
What questions would I ask her?
I would ask her, okay, this is a question I have. I want to know, is Jay-Z really a great guy? Like, I don't know. He seems a little bit like he's got someone on the side all the time. So I have a lot of questions about her marriage. I'm not gonna lie. I would want to know like what's really going on there. Like, what's the truth? I want to know.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, because she wrote a song about trying to break generational patterns because her dad cheated on her mom, and we don't know. This
Mm,
is it's like
yeah.
I don't know. I think I would I don't know whether I would I don't know. I would want her to kind of share, and just like we're having a
Hmm.
conversation, I would riff on whatever she's sharing to just figure out. Because again, a pattern of what I found in firstborn daughters and relationships, they want to be taken care of, but they don't know how to be taken care of. So
Yep.
then they attract men that they feel um, that they need to take care of, and then they become resentful for that. And I'm like, but you're kind of not leaving him any room to step up. So I would be
Mm,
curious as to
yeah.
how those dynamics are playing out in their relationship. And yeah, so it's interesting.
I would love to see her in concert. I've actually never been to one of her concerts, but
Neither have I.
I would die to see her because I think she puts on such an incredible show.
She does.
And I loved what you shared about her. Like, she really is very intentional about how she shows up and she has this like gravitas about her, this presence that think speaks to what that I see in you and what you've been speaking about of just like she commands respect just in how she shows up. She doesn't have to say anything. It's just in her. She
Mm.
just exudes this presence that is just uniquely her own, that's unapologetic and very much like she's not going to pander to anyone or kowtow to any. She has a very clear vision of how she wants to show up in the world and she's just going to, laser focus, make it happen. And she does. And yeah, I think that's really beautiful about her. And not afraid to push boundaries too. Like her last album was just incredible. How she was able to create these songs that really were like such a really cool combination of genres in such a really new way. And I love that about her that she just kind of surprises you sometimes with like the collaborative partners that she chooses. Like, oh, she's doing a song with Dolly Parton. Like, she's doing a song with Miley Cyrus. Like, you would never think. And then it's
Incredible.
gorgeous. Like,
Yeah,
it's so
yeah.
beautiful. So I love that. That's so cool. When did you first fall in love with Beyonce? What was the moment for you when you were like, "Ooh, I love her"?
So one of the things I used to do to escape kind of the circumstances that I was growing up in
Mhm.
was I taught myself how to sing and I used to write music. So
Mhm.
Destiny Child was on replay and I would make choreography with my sisters and we did a couple of talent shows and like I joined a dance group. So very early from days of no, 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 no.
You
Like I
said,
just
"Yeah, yeah, 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 yeah."
yeah. Like most people from very,
Oh.
very young. There's nostalgia every time I hear Destiny
Mhm.
Child and early Beyonce, and I've just kind of followed her career since then.
That's cool. I grew up listening to her in the 90s too. My moment when I really fell in love with her was when she came out with Crazy in Love. That
Hmm.
song just like I remember that was a song I could get lost in. Whenever I heard it, I would just dance my heart out and I would just feel so alive. And even when I hear it now, it takes me back and it just feels like just total you can just be totally unencumbered, like just like oh, alive in the most beautiful way. So, very cool. Oh, awesome. Well, okay, so I would love to, my gosh. Okay, my editor's she's Julie. Hi. I'm hanging in there. Make this magic happen. Okay, so I guess my last question for you. Well, I have all these other questions, and I want to be mindful of your time. Okay, so two more questions.
Hmm.
Okay, one of them is okay, so I work with a lot of women in tech. We're a startup. We provide mentorship and leadership development programming for women in tech. And one of the things that I've experienced and that a lot of women that I know experience is this kind of this pressure that you have to really prove yourself twice as hard because you're the only woman in the room and men tend to like from my experience it's a struggle to get them to respect you or understand, and it's something that I see in common with a lot of women who are in tech. And the problem is this obviously leads to burnout. It leads to staying silent in meetings. It leads to just pandering or people pleasing the people around you. And so, what are some of the parallels you see between that and firstborn daughters? And what would you recommend as the first step to unlearning some of these terrible habits where we feel like we've got to sit in the room and just like prove ourselves more than anyone else?
Isn't it interesting that you said we have to prove ourselves more than everyone else, but we stay silent in meetings?
Yeah.
I'll say like that's like the first thing that I see with firstborn daughters. It's I'm gonna work so hard that they're gonna notice me, and I'm like, I don't think that's how it works. I think you've got
Mhm.
to be louder for them to notice you, you know.
Mhm.
And like so, one of my clients, Kenya, she started working with me as a VP of a bank, and she would find that she would go into role, she would work really hard and she would feel like she was unnoticed and unappreciated. And then she would bounce to another role and she would keep doing that. So when we started working together, we were like, well, you're working in silence. They don't know. And then other people take credit for her work and again, let's look at what you're contributing to that dynamic rather than saying
Right.
like, it's them, they don't see, and it's because I'm a woman and it's because I'm a black woman at that. All of those things can apply in future, but fundamentally, if someone else is getting seen and you're not being seen, let's look at what you're doing to not be seen. And a lot of that is I have to work harder. And
Mm.
it's not the truth. You just have to work smarter. You got to
Gotta be
position yourself
louder.
to be louder. You know, it's like
Mhm.
you've got to say, like, I see that there's an opportunity there. You've got to be willing to not be perfect and say, I want to take this risk and take on this project. And like, I feel like I can deliver it because I think that's what men do. They don't they kind of just I was thinking about it this morning. My family came to visit me and my nephew is 16 years old
Mhm.
and I have a scooter, like an electric motorbike.
Mhm.
And he was just like, Auntie, can I have the key? And he just wants to jump on it. There's no consideration of, can you teach me how to drive? And my like niece is there and she's not even trying to go close to it. I was like, that's kind of what happens in business. Like we want to be so considered and there's nothing wrong with that. But we can't be surprised when we're being overlooked because we're taking time being perfectionists. We don't want
Mhm.
to try and fail and we
Mhm.
don't want to be too loud because we think that our work should speak for itself, and it should in an ideal world. But when people are busy and they're in their own worlds and someone is like being
Yeah,
loud, they look at the person that's being loud, so they might not even be meaning to overlook you, so
totally. It's all systemic. Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
I love what you shared about like your nephew, how he just like jumped on the bike and tried it. And I think that I found from my own experience that that is like the way to operate. If you're owning a business, you just have to go do it. You know, a lot of times as women, we sit and we've got to have this big, huge plan and it's got to be all figured out and all of the pathways need to be ironed out. But really, like, you've just got to take one step at a time and just move. Like, you just got to move one step at a time rather than feeling like you've got to have all the ducks lined up in a row. I think that's something I've noticed with women is that, like, a lot of times they'll talk themselves out of like, oh well, I don't think I could like public speaking, for example. I couldn't do that public speak. I couldn't speak. Why not? Like, why couldn't you? You know so much about this topic. What's holding you back from, speaking about it, So I think there's a lot of that. Just like take the one step and then the next step will reveal itself to you. So,
Yeah. Yeah, be courageous enough to be embarrassed. It's like if
mhm,
you're running a business and you're trying to do something that you personally haven't done before, if you've never grown that business before, there's a lot of things you're not going to know. So if you're not
yep,
comfortable with not knowing, you're going to stay stuck. You're not going to grow. So you've got to put yourself out there and fail, knowing that you're going to fail. So like even in this moment of trying to grow my membership community. My friend was
mhm,
around yesterday, and I said to her, I'm just in the rep mode. I'm getting out there, I'm seeing what's working, I'm
mm,
testing. There's a part of me that's like, I want the conversions immediately because I know that what I'm doing means something. But I need to figure out how to make it resonate with people. And in
yeah,
order for me to do that, I have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because it's not like I'm transformed and this is like easy. No, it feels uncomfortable and it's excruciating. And I've done 4 presentations, like these presentations I'm doing weekly, and the first one was diabolical, and already by
mm.
the fourth it's a lot more better. So it's just you've got to be willing to feel embarrassed.
Yes, you gotta be comfortable to feel embarrassed, and you gotta be comfortable in uncomfortable situations, and you have to be uncomfortable with the not knowing and saying, "You know what? I'm gonna figure it out anyway, even if I don't know it." And if things aren't going the way that you had planned them, being okay with saying, "Oh, we need to try this instead," and having this mindset of like, "How can we experiment and just
Mhm,
try things?" Rather
mhm,
than like, "Oh, it's not working, then I should just stop entirely." No, it's not working, so, like, what can we learn from this? This is a learning experience. Something's
mhm,
not working. That's telling us that we need to go in a different direction, try something else, rather than telling us necessarily that we need to stop entirely.
mhm.
You know?
Exactly.
So very cool. Oh my gosh, this has been such a delight. My last and final question for you is, what does the word moxie mean to you? Are you familiar with this word moxie? No.
I no.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny. It's a very American word. And the people that I have on the show from like the UK or, the EU, they're always like, I didn't know what this word meant when I came on your show. I have no idea. So it's actually like it's an Algonquin word. It's from the indigenous Algonquin tribe. And it's named after a stream in Maine called Moxie Stream, which was known for having medicinal properties. And so it translates to dark waters. So it's kind of like has this connotation of like mysterious, healing, kind of a vibe to it. And then there was a soda that was created called Moxie Soda Company, I guess, that came out like before Coca-Cola. And it was known for having like this very bitter, bracing taste. And so eventually the word moxie became known for like grit and determination and kind
Hmm.
of like this kind of it's just a fun word. I just love it. So anyway, yeah. Well, anyways,
I
well, I would love for you to tell our listeners how they can get a hold of you and maybe tell us a little bit about your community and how we can get involved for all the firstborn daughters listening and tuning in.
So you can find my website is www.healedhero.com. I think Firstborn
Mhm.
Daughters are Heroes. Heroes stands for helping entrepreneurs achieve limitlessness. I work
Mhm.
with executives as well. And I'm on social media. I need to be on social media. That will happen at some point. They're there, and if you message me, I'll see it. But yeah, I haven't been actively posting recently. But just if you put Adaku Mbagwu, there's only a few Adaku Mbagwu, so you should be able to
I
find
think
me
so. Yeah.
there. Yeah, and like I said, I have these master classes every Thursday for firstborn daughters just to educate them on the 5 levels of vulnerability and to understand how their patterns are limiting them in their career and what they need to do to shift it. And the community is an application only community because I did a lot of research and the firstborn daughters that so the work I do can be a little intense.
Mm.
I think that's a good way to. It's confronting, so it's not the easiest of work. You talk about Moxie referring to dark waters. Um,
Mm.
Kind of a lot of people want to kind of move towards like I just want to be happy and
Mm.
peaceful. But in order to move towards that, you kind of have to see the things that are getting in the way of that, getting in the way of the abundance. So we have to go and dig into those uncomfortable parts of our past in order to like bring it to the forefront and see how it's still dictating how we show up in the future. So the in order for me to curate, what I found is executives and entrepreneurs have the tolerance for the intensity of the work because it's you kind of have to have a little bit of a screw loose to be an entrepreneur. Put yourself through that
True.
much
Mhm.
trials and tribulations and pressure. And so I found over the years with working with men, female, people at different levels, that the people that thrive are the executives and entrepreneurs because they like time is an essence. They're like, just get to the root, rip
Mm.
off the bandage and tell
Yeah.
me how I need to heal. So that works well with this. So there is I want to make sure that I'm curating the community to make sure that
Mm.
it's women who are committed to the same level of growth, who are on a similar trajectory, so that all of the coaching that's provided is relatable, which it is. I think everyone's been crying on most calls, which they don't usually do. So
Wow.
it kind of
That's
shows.
powerful.
Yeah. And there's something magical. I always say, when you bring givers together that struggle to receive, it's just that in itself is healing because they pour into each other because it's a natural thing that they do. So they have no choice but to receive, which doesn't really happen in their lives. And my vision is to grow a global community of these executives and business owners who are supporting themselves and they can
Mm.
just tap into the community and say, I need help and I'm stuck here. And everyone's kind of working together to help each other
Mm.
grow. So at the early stages of that, I'm really excited about the potential. And yeah, I love
Beautiful.
what I do and feel very lucky to be in this position. So
So cool. You're doing such important work. I love it.
thank you.
Yes, such great work. And I have no doubt that your community is going to thrive, but more importantly, that the people who are part of it are going to be just completely, very powerfully impacted and it'll be life changing for them. So, firstborn daughters listening, get in touch.
Good to hear it from you.
Yes, very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And until next time, say hello, Moxie.
Hello,
Oh,
Moxie. Thanks for having me.
oh